Hey guys, it's Victoria and welcome back to FemmeHead. So today I have a video that we've all been waiting for. It is how I plan to chart postpartum now that Theo is here. Perfect timing. I actually got my first period this week and it could just be a fluke period, but as far as looking like a period, feeling like a period, it's very period-like. I got it right around the 10-week postpartum mark. My postpartum bleeding trickled off around the 6-week mark, around when it's supposed to stop. So the 4 weeks between, it was just a lot of really fertile egg white type fluid and just a lot of it. I was just amazed by the amount, honestly. I am in no rush to get back at it, even though I got cleared at my 6-week appointment. I've just been a bit like hesitant with my tear. It wasn't like for a loss of libido or anything. I feel like I still want to heal and strengthen and I feel like more needs to happen down there before I get back at it. So I'm in no rush in that sense. But I think it is very important to have a plan in place before you actually need it. There's no need for any Irish twins in this household. I heard a story from a friend about her friend or a friend of her or something like that, where after they had their baby, they got cleared at the 6-week postpartum appointment, and then they had sex right after that without any protection or anything, and conceived at that 6-week mark. And I cannot imagine going through the first trimester while you are simultaneously going through the 4th trimester with your newborn. Nothing against those who conceive right away, it happens all the time. I just don't want to do that. I want to space out my kiddos. You don't have to worry about birth control, conceiving, or any of that in the first 6 weeks because everyone tells you nothing out there for the first 6 weeks. No cups, no tampons, no penises, nothing. And you're just healing, you're figuring out this whole motherhood thing. Let's go back and talk about the lead up to this first period, or what I'm calling my first period, because I've had some questions about that. I didn't take my temperature at all this past 10 weeks because I was just figuring out motherhood. There wasn't really a good time to take it with a newborn. As mothers out there know, there's not a lot of consistency right off the bat, and then you slowly kind of get into schedule and consistency and you can kind of figure it out. I knew my temperature was going to be all over the place and just sporadic. I also know that cervical fluid is a better indicator of your fertility returning than temperature is. My plan was to A, not have sex, B, ignore my temperatures because I knew they're gonna be all over the place. I didn't have a good time to take them. 3, focus on my cervical fluid. And like I said, my cervical fluid was super fertile quality anyway, so I wasn't gonna be messing around with that. But now that I've got my first period, what I think is my first period, I'm gonna start taking my temperature, and I have a really good spot in the morning to do that. Theo does a long stretch of sleep starting from his 10 p.m. feeding. So he goes to bed around 7 p.m. and then I feed him again around 10 p.m. and he goes right back to sleep. And from 10 p.m. on is when he has his long stretch. And right now at 2 months, he's been doing about 5 to 7 hours. So I plan to temp around that 4 a.m. time slot of when he wakes up to eat. So when he starts rustling around and kind of grunting, and I know he's gonna wake up soon to eat, I can pop my thermometer and take my temperature. This is also why I think I may have gotten my period back so quickly, because he has been doing a longer stretch of sleep since around the 5-week mark. But like I said, this could also be a fluke period. I won't know, and we'll just kind of have to wait it out and see when I get my next period. So if you've ever looked at the lactational amenorrhea method, which if you have taken charge of your fertility, she talks about it in there. This is kind of, I think, what people think of when they think of breastfeeding as birth control. It's a huge misconception that if you're breastfeeding, you can't get pregnant. You can totally 100% be breastfeeding and get pregnant. One thing I know with lactational amenorrhea method, I'm going to start calling it LAM. One thing I know about LAM is your baby has to eat every 4 hours. So I'm pretty sure since he's been doing that longer stretch, my fertility has been yo, we're coming back. Another thing that I've heard plays a factor is whether they use a pacifier or not, a bottle or not, that sort of thing. So since he can use a bottle and a pacifier, I think that has contributed to it. I should mention Theo is just a breastfed baby. I haven't given him any sort of formula or supplementation. I have pumped and had someone else feed him a bottle a few times, but for the most part, it's just him on my boob. He eats every 2 to 3 hours during the day, except for that one long stretch of sleep at night. I had a lot of people ask if I was going to be using the temp drop now that I am postpartum, and I thought about it for a long time, and I was totally planning on getting a temp drop and using that because I fully expected to not get any sort of consistent sleep for months and months and months. But now that Theo is a little champ and we've worked really hard to get that that long stretch of sleep, I am able to take my temperature in the morning. He is really, really consistent, and it is always kind of around the same time. Another question I got was whether you should wait until your first period to have sex, and this is definitely a no. For most women, their periods don't come back for months after their baby is born, and that would be a really long time to wait to have sex if you want to jump back into the sack. I just think it's worth mentioning that you ovulate before you get your period. You can get pregnant again without ever having a period after having your baby, if that makes sense. I hope it does. So for example, I got my first period around this 10-week mark, and I could have, ovulated somewhere around the 8-week mark. I could have a positive pregnancy test right now, possibly, instead of a period. And that is crazy to me. Someone else asked how my periods were postpartum, and I've had 3 days of a period so far, and it's been pretty chill. I wouldn't know that I was having a period if it weren't for all the blood, I didn't really have any cramping. I did have a bit of cramping a few weeks ago, which I think was possibly from ovulation, but once again, I don't know, and I can't say that for sure. We went to our niece's cross-country meet. I think it was the first day that I was actually bleeding, and I definitely felt some cramping heaviness in the seat. It wasn't like my uterus, it was like the seat from where all the birth trauma happened that I could feel it in. That was it. To break it down, how I plan to chart, this isn't like an in-depth how to chart postpartum. I can't do that in a video, and that would not be responsible of me to do in a video. If it's something that you want to do, definitely look into it. Taking charge of your fertility is a great resource that I think anyone who is even remotely interested in charting should have. I have a course of how to chart your cycle for those new to charting. There is obviously different factors and rules that go along with being postpartum, but it's great to have that foundation of knowledge to chart your cycle, and I will link that down below. The first thing I'm going to do is be very careful and cautious while my cycles continue to balance out. When in doubt, play it safe. I always say that. Even though Michael and I want more kids, we don't want another kid in 9 months. I'm very excited, I can't wait to have all the babies now, but I want to enjoy Theo for a little bit, get used to being the mom of one before I added more. 2, like I said, I'm going to take my temperature every morning after Theo's a long stretch of sleep. You hear different lengths of sleep that you have to get your temperature in the morning. I've always heard 3 or 4 hours, the more the better. I definitely know that for the most part, I can get those 4 hours that I need. Like I said, kind of rustles around and grunts for quite a while. And when I hear him doing that, I can be like, oh, just take my temperature. Look at the time and take my temperature. He can cry for 60 seconds and he'll be fine. If he's screaming bloody murder, I'll send Michael in to get him. Number 3, there's a jackhammer next door. Number 3 is I'm going to chart my cervical fluid, checking it a few times a day. I wish I could stress how valuable your cervical fluid is. Just in charting, knowing where you are fertility-wise, for conceiving. Cervical fluid is so important. I think it gets overshadowed by temperature because all of the different fertility devices and fertility tracking apps all really kind of focus on temperature, but cervical fluid is so crucial and important, and I highly encourage you to chart that. Number 4, follow the guidelines and rules laid out by the Sympto-thermal method, which is what I use and have always used and really recommend. It is a combined method, meaning you chart both your temperature and your fluid, and the third optional sign of your cervical position. I don't chart my cervical position, but I know plenty of women that do. And there will most likely be so many more unsafe days than safe days in this period of time where my cycle is balancing out, but I am okay with that. There are plenty other ways to be intimate and have a little fun without risking pregnancy. And number 5, when in doubt, play it safe. I know I said this one already, but I can't stress it enough. Some people think that charting is just this kind of up in the air, cross your fingers woo-woo thing, and it's not. You have to be diligent, you have to be strict in a sense. And when you're questioning yourself, you have to say, okay, it's just one day that I can't have sex, but I can do so many other sexual things with my partner and be satisfied that way and not have the stress and anxiety of, oh my gosh, am I pregnant, when I might not want to be. And that's what I have to say about how I plan to chart postpartum. It's not anything like revolutionary. Yes, there's a lot of different things you have to consider when you are postpartum because your cycles are going to be balancing themselves out. And so like I said, you're probably going to have more unsafe days than safe days, meaning days that you can't have unprotected sex, but that's okay. Thank you so much for watching today's video. Don't forget to give it a thumbs up if you enjoyed it, as well as hitting that subscribe button to follow along with me. Let me know if there's more videos you want me to make surrounding charting postpartum or anything to do with like charting menstrual cycles and that sort of stuff, because I've definitely been doing a lot of baby pregnancy related videos recently, and that's just because that is kind of the phase of life I've been in, and so it's been hard to make videos talking about other things I'm not currently experiencing. But now that I'm getting back into cycles and periods and menstruation and charting and all that beautiful stuff, I'm definitely going to start making more content surrounding that, so let me know what kind of videos you want to see. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you guys in my next video. Bye!